Hello, my name is Lisa Franzen-Castle, and I work at the Panhandle Research and Extension Center with the University of Nebraska-Lincoln as their Extension Nutrition Specialist. My doctorate's in nutrition, and I'm also a registered dietitian. I want to welcome you to the second part of the series for Stress Awareness, Strategies for Management. And today we're going to be talking about two of the four techniques I mentioned in the first overview series was avoiding and altering. And there may be times when you can avoid unnecessary stress, but I also want to give a disclaimer that not all stress can be avoided, and we'll talk about that in a future presentation. Also, altering. If you can't avoid stress, try to alter it. And think about changing the way you communicate. So these are 2 points that we're really going to discuss in this presentation. So first, talking about avoiding. Again, some stress can be avoided if it's unnecessary, but not all stress can be avoided. And it's not healthy to avoid a situation that really does need to be addressed. But you may be surprised that there are a number of stressors that you can eliminate. This is one that I myself have to learn to do, is learning to say no when it's appropriate. Know your limits and stick to them, whether it's in your personal or professional life. And taking on more than you can handle is a surefire recipe for stress and disaster. So I myself, I'm new to where I'm working. I'm junior faculty. I want to please people. I want to do a good job. But at the same time, I really need to learn to recognize when it is appropriate to say no and when it's not appropriate to say no. What is an efficient use of my time? So that's definitely something that I have to work on, and I know some other people that feel the same way. And also, another method is avoiding people who stress you out. Someone that consistently causes stress, or that when you feel that stress coming on when you're around that person, when you're having conversations with them. So there's two options there. You can limit the time that you spend with them, and the other option is to end the relationship entirely. Now, I would say for me, that's kind of a last resort decision, but there are some circumstances where it is much healthier for you as an individual to just cut off on a relationship if it's to the point where it's stressing you out that much. Also, when we talk about avoid, it's to take control of your environment. And so, for instance, like if traffic gets you really tense, maybe try taking a longer, less traveled route. Or if you don't like going to the market, it's busy, go at a time when you know it's not going to be busy, or even try grocery shopping online if that's available to you. And I know when I was living in Minneapolis, Minnesota, the rush hour traffic can get pretty bad in the morning and in the evening. And so I worked out my schedule so I could go in off-peak times. I would either leave before or after rush hour, or I would leave a little bit later in the evening so I would miss a lot of the traffic. So my commute would be about 20 minutes as opposed to 45, 50 minutes. And for me, that was just a lot less stressful, and I felt it was just better for me. So there's always an alternative to a situation. If you find something stressful, try to think about, you still have to drive to work, but maybe there's a better way to do it. And avoiding hot button topics. If you get upset over religion or politics, for example, maybe cross them off your conversation list, or know who you can have those conversations with and they're not going to get heated, and the people that you cannot have those conversations with. And if you repeatedly argue about the same subject with the same people, it might be wise to just stop bringing it up, or even excuse yourself if the topic comes up for discussion. Also, another thing about avoiding is reducing your to-do list. Analyze your schedule, your responsibilities, and your tasks. And if you've got too much on your plate, it's time to distinguish between what are the shoulds and what are the musts. And drop tasks that aren't necessary to the bottom or eliminate them. And I keep referencing the 7 Habits workshop, but there was one demonstration that we watched on a video that was very powerful for me. And they had these 2 empty buckets, and the facilitator asked one of the audience members to come up and fill up this bucket with all these little rocks. And then he said, okay, take these big important rocks like a project or vacation or a promotion or something, and see if you can get them to fit in the bucket. She forced and she pushed and she just couldn't get them all in, but she didn't want to leave them out either. So we said, you know what, you've got another option. You've got this empty bucket. Why don't you tell me how you would do it this time based off what you just learned? So she took all the big rocks and she put them in first. And then she filled the little rocks in where she could. And not all of them fit. And so you really need to pay attention to those big rocks or those important things in your life, and don't let all the little things that aren't as important get in the way of finishing those. And now we're going to move on to the strategy of alter. So if you can't avoid a stressful situation, try to alter it. Figure out what you can do to change things so the problem doesn't persist. Again, don't go for those temporary fixes. Really try to go for those long-term solutions. And also think about changing the way you communicate and operate in your daily life. So it's important to express your feelings as opposed to bottling them up. So if something or someone is bothering you, you can have a discussion and you can communicate with them with your concerns in an open and respectful way. If you don't voice your feelings, resentment might build up and the situation is likely to just stay the same and it's not going to get any better. Because I think about a situation like this, it's like a boiling pot of water. You know, at first it's boiling really slow and it keeps getting faster and faster, and if you don't watch it, it's going to overflow. And that's sometimes what happens with people that we interact with. If we don't let them know something's bothering us, then how are they going to know they need to change or make a difference in what they're doing? So we really need to talk to people about those things, and it can be done in a way that's respectful and open and doesn't have to be defensive. And also be willing to compromise. If you ask someone to change their behavior, you might have to be willing to do the same. And if you're both willing to bend a little, you might have a good chance of having a happy middle ground. Another part of altering is being more assertive. Don't take a back seat in your own life and deal with those problems head on. Because if you avoid problems that need to be addressed, that's going to cause problems. And do your best to anticipate and prevent problems. An example would be, this one's about studying, but it also could be about a coworker too. If you've got an exam to study for and your roommate just gets home and she's a chatty Cathy and she wants to stay up and talk to you, maybe you should just say up front, you know, I've only got 5 minutes to talk. I've got this really important exam. Maybe we could do lunch tomorrow, or we could talk tomorrow night when I don't have as much stuff going on. And even with a coworker, if you know there's certain people that they like to come in and chat, and that's great, or you could say, you know, I've only got a few minutes. How about we talk at break time at 3 o'clock when I'm done with this, or something like that. Also, altering would be managing your time better. Poor time management can definitely cause stress. And when you're stretched too thin and behind, it's really hard to stay calm and stay focused because you're freaking out about trying to get this project or whatever it is done on time. So if you plan ahead and make sure you don't overextend yourself, you're not going to be put in that crisis mode. And you can also alter the amount of stress that you are under. So really taking that time to plan out something ahead of time is really important, and maybe stretching out those tasks that you need to do in order to complete a project instead of waiting till closer to the deadline to try and get all those different things done. So in summary, for the stress management we talked about, the 2 strategies were avoid and alter. And so avoid unnecessary stress, but also remember that not all stress can be avoided. And altering, if you can't avoid a stressful situation, try to alter it. And also think about changing the way you communicate and operating in your daily life. Thanks for watching, and please remember to take care of yourself so you can maintain your health in the future.